I watched the debate last night, and I think you all agreed that the border should be shut down. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Now, but no one mentioned the Constitution. Right? Now let me quote 4 parts of the Constitution. And I may be a little astray, but you can check it. Article 1, Section 8 gives Congress the right to protect from an invasion. Article 1, Section 10 gives the state the right to close their border to repel an invasion. Article 4, Section 4 says the government shall protect every state from invasion. Now, wouldn't you say this is an invasion when you get millions of people coming in from 170 countries all across the world? Yeah? You agree?
All right. Well, okay, got more?
No,
All right.
I simply said, I wish someone had the guts in Congress to do their job, because they can shut it down tomorrow. They won't. No guts.
Right. Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you. And first of all, as a recovering lawyer, I think you quoted all those things right. So I'll check you on the way home, but I think you were right on those. Look, the answers last night, while longer than our normal answers were allowed to be, we got 30 additional seconds last night. So instead of a minute, we got a minute and a half. And you can't give a full answer, but here you can. This is a complicated problem. And the Congress hasn't acted for the exact reasons you said. Some of them want the invasion. Some of them believe it's their political advantage to have the invasion because they think that some of those folks will become their voters eventually, right? So that's part of it. Part of it's a political motivation. But do not be fooled by folks who say we're going to take our army and invade Mexico. Okay? You and I both know it's not going to happen. Okay? And Hugh Hewitt tried to get at that last night with Governor DeSantis to say, how exactly are you going to do that? Like, we're really going to invade Mexico? And then he said, we're going to shoot them stone cold dead. Well, that sounds real tough, right? But that's TV tough guy stuff. And then this one I couldn't believe last night. I had heard he had said this. And I said, it can't be. I remember going to Mary Pat and saying, someone just told me, because someone from up here, a supporter of ours, went to one of Ron's meetings and said, you won't believe what DeSantis said today. And he told me, I said, that can't be. Can't have done that. And then he repeated it last night on the stage. He said, he's going to build a wall across the entire border and Mexico's going to pay for it. Have we heard that before? We heard that 8 years ago. I was here. I was running. I remember. And Donald Trump built 52 miles of new wall in 4 years. Hell, if Mexico knew he's only going to build 52 miles, they might have been willing to pay for it. 52 miles of new wall. Let me promise you something. I think it's a fine idea to have a wall. I have no problem with it. But we're going to pay for it. And you know why? Because there's no way to get Mexico to pay for it. They're a sovereign country. We present them with the bill. You know what they're going to do? Into the shredder. Next. That's why I say it's a complicated issue. Not that it's not solvable, but don't fall for this TV tough guy baloney. Because the Constitution is also not going to permit us to be shooting people stone cold dead as soon as they come across the border. And by the way, Customs and Border Patrol officers are not going to do it unless their lives are threatened. Because that's the way they're trained. If their lives are threatened, you bet they'll use their firearms to protect themselves. But they're not just because you're coming across, it doesn't mean you deserve to be shot dead. And we're not going to do it. The biggest problem is we're not going to do it. So how about we have 5 things that we need to do to close down the border. The first thing I would do on day one is sign an executive order that sends the National Guard to the border. Our Customs and Border Patrol officers are overwhelmed. And let me tell you why. In the last 11 months, they have averaged 200,000 encounters a month at the border. We simply don't have enough men and women down there to be able to deal with it. So the first thing, and this you can do immediately, is send the National Guard down there to stand shoulder to shoulder with our Customs and Border Patrol officers to stop the invasion. Second, we need to add 10,000 Customs and Border Patrol officers. Now that's going to take a year, because by the time you recruit them and train them and deploy them, it's going to take a year. So that's why you put the National Guard there to start. Third, we absolutely need to triple the number of immigration judges we have. When people come over the border and our laws guarantee them asylum hearing, it now takes 4 years. 4 years. Guess what? You can't detain them for 4 years. So they release them into the United States and say, hey, do me a favor, come back to El Paso in 4 years for your hearing, when we might send you back. They're not coming back, okay? They're going to stay in the United States, they're going to hide in this huge continental country, and they're not coming back. Fourth, we need to double the number of detention beds we have at the border. I told you 200,000 encounters a month. You know how many detention beds we have at the border? 38,000. Now, I went to law school because I couldn't do math or science, but even I could do that math. It doesn't work. So I doubled it to 80,000. But that will probably take you at least 6 months to get done. And then fifth, we have to get to the core of the problem that you talked about, which is a president has to be willing to put their political popularity on the line to change the immigration system. We can't any longer let anybody who wants to come over this border and claim that they're here for political asylum and have that be the way it goes. And we need to go back to a merit-based immigration system. We have 6 million open jobs in this country. Right now, today. 6 million open jobs. We're not going to be able to grow our economy the way we need to if we don't fill those jobs. Well, if there's 6 million open jobs in this economy today, what that tells you is those are jobs that Americans either can't do or don't want to do. Every time we've had that problem in our country's history, what have we done? We've used legal immigration to come to the United States to fill those jobs. But we have to do it based on merit. Which kind of jobs do we have a need for? And if you have those skills, you go to the front of the line and you come in here legally to fill those jobs. Second thing we need to do to change those immigration laws is to make every employer use E-Verify, so that the employer can have the comfort of knowing when I hire somebody, they're actually here legally. And if they're not here legally, you can't hire them. That will deter people from coming over. If they come over, almost all of them come over for money. They can make money here, and then they can send that money back to their families in Venezuela, in Colombia, in all of the Central American countries where these folks are coming from. So we need to do that. Now, to do that, though, we're going to have to give the Democrats something, because they don't want E-Verify, and they don't want merit-based immigration. And for 20 years now, we've been saying, no, we're not going to give them anything when we're in charge. And when they're in charge, they say, no, we're not going to give the Republicans anything. And so now we sat for 40 years with immigration laws not being changed, and we just fall further and further and further behind. So we got to do that, and a president's got to be willing to do that. And Obama didn't do it when he had a supermajority in the Senate where he could have passed anything he wanted. He had 60 votes and a big majority in the House. Trump didn't do it when he had majorities in the House and the Senate. And Biden has done the exact opposite. He doesn't want to change it. He wants the invasion to continue. So let's be smart about this. It has to be done. We can do it. We can do it in the near term to stop it from happening. But that near-term fix is not going to be the only fix we need. We need a long-term fix for it, too. Because if we don't, then the minute our attention gets diverted onto something else, if the laws haven't changed, it's just going to go back to happening again. And we've seen that happen over and over again over the last 40 years. So we need to do that. So a president has to be willing to put his credibility on the line and his popularity on the line to be able to get a deal done so that we can make progress. And what we need to know is that not every deal is going to be 100% of what we want. But in your life, when do you ever get 100% of what you want? I've been married for 37 years. I never get 100%, and neither does she. And maybe that's why we're still together. Because if one of us got 100% for a decent streak, seems to me the other one would be hitting the exits, right? So you got to do this. And Congress and the relationship between the president of Congress is very much like that. You got to be willing to make a deal. As long as they do the things we need to do to secure the border, have a merit-based immigration system, and make sure that people can't employ folks, who are here illegally, then we're going to have to deal with them as well. And so what do they want ultimately? I'm not exactly sure. There'd be some stuff I'd be willing to agree to. There'd be some stuff I wouldn't be willing to agree to. But that's part of what you have to do, is engage in that negotiation. But on day one, we send the National Guard down there to send a show of force to say to people, if you come over, you're not going to make it. We're going to stop you, and we're going to send you back. And we don't have enough people to get that done right now. That's the fact. And because the wall didn't get built, we don't have that barrier either. And so we don't even have that help. And believe me, the wall will get built. But when it does, we're paying for it, not Mexico. And be careful about any politician who tells you they're going to get Mexico to pay for it, because they're not. And you've already seen that. Yes, ma'am, on the